subscription today. Boys.
Did you? Good.
Yeah, smoke a deal. $35 for the year. Why not? Right, Gerald? It's no big deal. $35. Get to see all your stories every day. So I just want the hat, man. I mean, it said that if I signed up, I get a hat. And can you talk to somebody? Can I get a hat from you?
Yeah, we can try and make that happen. Love that. $36 for the year, and you get a free hat or a T-shirt. Love that deal.
Yeah, Gerald Bourguet joining us here. All right, so you've been extremely busy as of late. This has been a hell of a week for Phoenix Suns sports. I'm going to do this, and I hate it, but if you were going to grade Mat Ishbia's presser yesterday, A to an F, where would you put it?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably put it C plus B minus range, because I think no matter what he would have gotten up there and said, it wouldn't have mattered to a good number of Suns fans. And I think that's fair after the season that they've had and the position that they put themselves in. Like, he even acknowledged that I know people are not going to be excited about, the Suns or what I'm saying right now, but I felt like the fact that he acknowledged that it hasn't worked and that they're going to change directions was a big step from last year, when it was basically kind of this defiant confidence that it's going to work out. 26 out of 29 teams would, trade places with us if they could, all of that. And this time around, it felt different. It felt very much like we're going to make changes. We need to make changes. I don't know what him setting the tone or the identity of the Suns specifically kind of looks like moving forward, but I do think they understand their failings, and I think they are taking a more calculated approach moving forward. So I don't think this team is going to contend for a title in the next year or two, but I do think they're getting back on the right track, because we knew that it was going to be a 1 or 2 year window with the group that they had. And when you fall as short as you did, you have to make pretty drastic changes.
Jared, it's easy to kind of just break down someone's press conference. So talking heads is what we do, but there seems like there's different messages in there. He says he's taking the blame for where they are and what happened, but he's also saying that he's not overly involved as the owner. And that's where I'm kind of torn. I mean, where do you think he really sits?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And honestly, it's one that we may never get the full answer to. Behind the scenes, according to my sources and based on everything that Matt, James, and Josh were saying yesterday, they've all kind of aligned that, like, Mat Ishbia is not the one that is evaluating players in terms of making moves. He is the one that kind of sets the tone in terms of being aggressive and telling, his GM and his CEO that if you have a move that can push us closer to contending for a title, then do it. And I think we've seen that plenty in terms of what, trades he's approved or even been involved with, being involved with recruiting Bradley Beal once they decided that they wanted to go after Beal, which was a Bartlestein and James Jones decision. But I do think, he's not absolved of blame just because he's not involved with the specific decision making. Like, just because he's not sitting there saying, hey, I want to go get this player, let's trade for this guy, that doesn't mean that he's, out of the loop. He's obviously very involved. He's obviously the one that is giving these guys kind of carte blanche to go after whatever they want. And it kind of enabled some of their worst impulses in terms of how many draft picks they were willing to attach to get these deals done. Obviously how much money he's spending. I do appreciate that he kind of clarified, like, look, spending money is not an issue, but I'm not going to be foolish about it if I don't think that we're on the right path. So I think now it's about carving out a new path and figuring out what that looks like, what traits they want to be a part of Suns basketball, because I'm pretty sure they were more upset than anyone watching this team struggle to get 36 wins and completely fall out of the playoffs with the highest payroll in NBA history. Like, that is embarrassing. And I think they hated watching the Suns team as much as we did in terms of the lack of life, the lack of heart, the lack of identity. So I think that's their number one goal moving forward this offseason, is figuring out how do we make sure that the guys that we bring in this building never look like that again.
Well, the guy that brought those guys in the building, Gerald, is a guy named James Jones. Is he going to get a hall pass, a mulligan on this? His contract is up in June. I mean, if we're going to, if Mat Ishbia says, look, I trust those guys, put it on them, and this last 2 years have fallen over like a lead balloon, how much blame, what his penance going to be? Do they renew him? Where does that all stand in your mind right now? Because he was very evasive about the more changes coming down the road, and especially with James Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I know fans were upset that James Jones and Josh Bartelstein were included in this press conference and kind of interpreted that as a sign that they're definitely going to be back. And I think to a certain degree that's true, but I would not rule out them coming back in reduced or slightly altered roles. It very much felt like they went up there to kind of eat crow for the personnel decisions that they made and take accountability. And the fact that none of them were able to say, like, no, Matt never came out and said, I believe in Josh and James. They're going to be in their roles moving forward. This is what it's going to be. It was more so, no, there's going to be changes, even though he couldn't or didn't specifically get into what those changes are or what they look like. I think it's similar to last year when he came at the end of the season, took his time for a week, kind of talking with players and evaluating Frank Vogel's job. I think he's going to do the same thing with James and Josh. And I'd honestly be surprised if they are back next season in this same role that they currently have. You don't go up there and say there's going to be major changes and not say like, oh, these guys are fine. They're going to stay in their roles as is.
Gerald Bourguet joining us here, PHNX Sports, joining us here on ESPN 620. Do you see any type of scenario where Kevin Durant remains a Phoenix Sun?
It's getting more and more difficult by the day, and I think yesterday's press conference kind of sealed that. They were talking about we're maybe not going to go after the high talented players anymore. We're going to focus on defense and guys that complement Devin Booker and fit our identity. And that's not necessarily a slight at Kevin Durant, but if you talk about we're not going to have the most expensive payroll in the league next year, well, the two main guys who are part of the reason why you have that payroll are Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. I would be surprised if Beal is on the roster either by trade or by a slight buyout to where they can get beneath the threshold and waive and stretch him. And then when it comes to KD, like with Beal, you're probably not going to get many assets if you do trade him. You might even have to attach something to him to get a team to take him. With Kevin Durant, he's your best shot at, getting some assets in return, whether that's usable rotation players, draft picks, younger players, whatever it is, he's kind of your best shot out of there. So I think in terms of freeing up that flexibility and making sure their payroll is not as gigantic as it was this last year, he's kind of the piece that you look to, and he's kind of the default trade piece. So I would kind of be surprised at this point if he is back, even though KD had said in the past that he kind of wanted to retire here and finish his career here. I think both parties are probably going to work together.
3 minutes.
Surprise me if that happens with some playoff team kind of flaming out earlier than expected.
And I think you got to be somewhat careful too, don't you, Gerald? As far as not getting rid of everybody, keep your core, keep Dunn and Iguodala, keep your young guys. You just got to be careful what you completely get rid of and what you bring back in. So being that Suns fan I've been since 1968, I don't mind a rebuild or retool, but I don't wait around for 5 or 6 years and see something like the process that Philadelphia had several years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And people in the Valley have seen what a long-term rebuild looks like. They saw it, early in Devin Booker's career for that better part of the decade, where they tried to rebuild through the draft, and then they had one really good year and they tried to rebuild through the middle, and that didn't work. So they kind of had to reset through the draft again. And that was kind of what led to that 2021 finals team. And you've got to take the proper steps, but also be aware of the fact that Devin Booker's 28. His prime is not going to last forever. Obviously, Book needs to be better next season from what he was this season. But you also got to put the right type of pieces around him. You've got to nail your next hiring coach because you cannot get that wrong again. And you've got to find a way to kind of bridge the gap between giving yourself more of a long-term trajectory while also making sure that you can contend and put Booker in a position where he can compete for championships within the next couple of years before his prime is over.
It's going to be a fun summer talking Phoenix Suns basketball. Gerald, as always, man, thanks for making some time for us. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That's Gerald Bourguet joining us, Suns lead writer for Go PHX Sports, PHNX, I should say. And you can always follow him on X at Gerald Bourguet. So appreciate that. How about this Diamondback team? 10 runs scored in the top of the 8th. However, in the bottom of the 8th, they've already given up 3. It's 11-10, a classic one once again at Wrigley Field. Wish we had it on right now here at Wright Toyota because these are the games you want to watch. I mean, you got guys like Happ has got 4 RBIs. Carson Kelly's got 5 for the Cubs. And then on the D-back side, you got Gurriel.
Lourdes Gurriel.
Gurriel's got 3. Gino's got 4. So it's this is the kind of game that gets your averages up.
Friday
game, play in Chicago.
Friday game, wind blowing out,
crowd
home runs going out all over the place.
How cold is it though? We got a weather report.
Yeah, it was supposed to be pretty chilly. I don't know, it was like 40, mid 40s or something like that. But windy. I know it's windy. It said that
70.
Is this 70?
70 degrees, 18-mile-an-hour wind.
So what the hell was Jimmy B talking about yesterday?
I don't know. He might have
said, they're in Florida, and then they're going to head up to Chicago, and it's going to be freezing.
His weather
70 there is what it is here.
His weather report must have been a bit off, but I know it was going to be close to 20-mile-an-hour winds. They talked about that. Ball gets up, it's out.
Hey, our State 48 Roofing, it's your call question of the day is, what sport do you relate the most on Easter Sunday? Is it golf, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, or Major League Baseball? Those are your 4 choices. Go to our Twitter X page at Roc Manuch and vote. Again, all brought to you by State 48 Roofing, your preferred roofer, and voted the best roofer in Arizona. Number 1 preferred roofer in Arizona. You can check them out at state48roofing.com. You know, I don't think of anything. I don't have none of them. Unless the Masters falls on Easter.
Yeah, but if it's most of the time, if Easter, I'm home, I'm watching golf.
Maybe an NBA game.
Break.
Yeah, I think it. But
yeah, you got the NBA playoffs on Sunday.
Yeah, but it's first round. It's
it's mostly golf, whether it's Masters or another tournament.
Mostly just
Heritage.
For me.
The Heritage, hanging out, doing a whole lot of nothing. I might peek at an NBA game, but I'm usually watching them round of golf.
Scott's Price here will handicap some of these games coming up here in about 15 minutes. But if you haven't bought your Easter basket yet, I'll tell you what the most popular candy is this year. Yeah, a little sports bar gossip's coming up. It's Roc Manuch with Jimmy B here on